One of the things that I hear the most complaints about are whites aren't good enough. This white or that white. And one of the key things I think of is what screens are you using? How thick is your emulsion? What squeegee blades are you using? And obviously we know that there's different squeegee blades, but we're going to show you today what the difference is between a 65 triple durometer and a 75 triple durometer by Saudi, along with showing what the proper amount of emulsion can do to affect and give you the best possible results with whatever white you're using.
Go.
What I'm showing you here is a 160 mesh, and 160 is kind of fine. It's on the finer edge of what you want as a white, but we're going to use this as a highlight white. But in order to eliminate or alleviate the sawtoothing edge problems that some people complain about, what we've done here is made sure that we have a sufficient amount of OEM, emulsion over mesh. And what that basically breaks down to is there's plenty of emulsion on the shirt side to have a very fine detailed edge and enough deposit of ink. No matter what ink you're using or what squeegee you're using, it's still best to have a great amount of emulsion, a sufficient amount of emulsion to get the correct deposit. What I'm going to use here is the Cool White 7022. And one of the first things you want to do is make sure you thoroughly stir any white that you're using. You want to make sure you get all, and also stirring it up loosens the viscosity a little bit. Plastic salt ink is thixotropic and it has a false body. So during storage and stuff. So when you want to, before you apply it, make sure you just stir it up really good. Also, when I apply it to a screen, we not only want to put enough ink here, when I apply the ink, we want to also apply it here, but also we want to apply it at the top here. What does that do? It lubricates the squeegee. If we don't want the squeegee to come down on a dry screen. What will happen if you do that? It'll actually move the screen slightly. It'll make it move a hair and change the registration. Okay, so it may be even good to just wet the squeegee like this if you're concerned about it. Okay, and that gives it a little bit of lubrication rather than when it comes down, it won't hit a dry screen. And one of the things I want to clarify is to make sure that you preheat the machine. Preheating the palette gives everything up to temp, the operating temp, and also gets makes the ink flow a little bit better. And another thing I want to make sure is that the importance of flood pressure. Flooding doesn't only just push the ink around, but it should push the ink into the mesh of the screen and does half the work, let's say, and allows the squeegee to just apply the ink onto the garment. So I'm going to demonstrate the flood, and then we're going to show you the print pressure. Now again, the print pressure shouldn't just be enough to apply the ink onto the shirt without leaving a residue on the screen. We don't really want to push the ink into the garment so much that you see it on the back side of the fabric. We just want to apply it on the surface. We don't get paid for what's in the shirt, but what's on the shirt. When flashing, we want to make sure that we're just flashing to the touch. We don't want to overcure the ink. We're just flashing the surface of the ink so it's dry. If you overflash it, you could create what they call an intercoat adhesion issue, where it's so cured that the ink that you put on top of it doesn't want to adhere. What we're showing here is the same 110 mesh using on the left side is the 65 durometer squeegee, and on the right side you're going to have the 75 durometer squeegee. Now, because the screen has such sufficient amount of emulsion, there's not as much difference as there would be if there was less emulsion. But there is a slight difference in just the squeegee. Without any pressure changes or any stroke changes whatsoever, there is a difference in just changing the squeegee blade and durometer. One of the secrets of really getting a fine feel of a white underbase in general is using a flattening screen. In Spanish they call it a plancha screen. That what you do is you take a 160 mesh, coat it with a bunch of emulsion to get a really smooth bottom on it, and then expose it with no image. What that does is gives you a nice glass-like feel on the bottom of the screen. What the technique entails is that you partially flash that white underbase and immediately hit it with this screen, and you use grease as a lubricant for a hard squeegee. And what that does is basically irons that white underprint that has been gelled. Do not cure it. You just want to partially gel it to the touch. So there's a skin of dry ink, but inside that ink film is still soft and moist. And what it'll do is it would accept that flattening technique and give you a very smooth white underbase. And you have to have good off contact, more off contact than normal, so the screen will peel away from that white underbase. It might tend to want to stick a little bit, but with enough off contact, that screen will peel away. If you just cure it enough. If you over cure or over flash that white underbase, this technique will not work. The ink film is too hard and it will not accept the flattening screen technique. So here we have the 110 mesh being flooded correctly with a 65 durometer squeegee. Now this emulsion thickness really helps. Now here we have a flash. Now we're flashing it just to the touch. You don't want to over flash this flash. And then we come over here with a pre-coated screen to give it a really smooth bottom, and we're lubricating it with grease with a hard squeegee. And what we're really giving that screen a smooth, soft surface. So here we have the 160 mesh properly being flooded with a 65 durometer squeegee. As you can see, it's clearing the mesh very easily. This is a 110 underbase with a 65 durometer, again, flash to the touch with a flattening screen with plenty of off contact to get that flattening screen to peel away. And then we have the 160 mesh with a 65 durometer squeegee. And again, this is the 7022 Cool White by International Coatings. It is a great product and we really are doing well with it. Make sure you don't have any wrinkles like that in your dryer, because that will surely wash off where it cannot be exposed to the heat. Make sure your image is flat as can be. With the proper amount of emulsion, you don't have to do double passes, and you're going to be able to get a good coverage right off the bat. And as you can see right here, the detail in here with a 110 mesh with a 160 is incredible. I really am proud of this. We cured this at 285 for about, I think it was about 75 seconds, a little over a minute. Okay, so when we're able to stretch it like this without cracking, we know we have a full cure. If you saw a lot of cracks here, I would recommend that you slow down the dryer or raise the temperature to get a full cure. Okay, on the left side, we're having the 110 mesh with a 65 durometer squeegee. Here is the same 65 durometer squeegee with a 160 mesh. And as you can see, clearly the one on the right has a little less coverage than the 110 mesh.